Hello everybody, and welcome to Innovative Education. Today we're going to begin our second episode of the Anatomy and Physiology series. Today's episode is all about histology, and histology is the study of structure and purposes of tissue. There are four main types of tissue, and these are shown here as nervous, epithelial, connective, and muscle tissue. These are just pictures of different cells that make up the tissue. And when we go in to talk about these tissues, we're going to talk about the location, appearance, and function of the tissues. But in this particular episode, we're only going to talk about nervous tissue and muscle tissue. We're going to start with nervous tissue. And the only thing that you have to know about nervous tissue is that there are two different types of cells, neurons and glial cells. Neurons, they have the function of sending messages to and from the brain. So your brain can communicate and send messages to your muscles and your heart and everything like that. It's located in the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. That's where these two cells are located. Glial cells have the function of supporting neurons, and we'll get into glial cells more in depth because there's 6 specific types of glial cells. As you can see, this is a picture of a neuron, and it's kind of tough to see, but this little dark spot in the middle is the nucleus, and it's inside of the cell body or the soma. And we're going to get into neurons more in depth once we reach the nervous system part of this series. Now we're going to talk about muscle tissue. There are 3 main types of muscle tissue: smooth muscle tissue, skeletal muscle tissue, and cardiac muscle tissue. These tissues have a special ability to contract or shorten, so they can perform specific functions. Muscle tissue is well vascularized, meaning it gets lots of blood. Smooth muscle tissue lines the walls of most of your hollow organs and canals. For example, it lines your blood vessels, digestive tract, and urinary tract, and a couple more. Such as the uterus if you have one, or it can also line male genitalia as well. Cardiac muscle tissue functions involuntarily. It's only found on the walls of your heart and causes it to beat and pump blood. Like mentioned here, it's only found in the walls of your heart, and it's involuntary, meaning that it beats on its own. So it's basically your brain commands it to beat without you having to tell it to beat, which is obviously very useful, so you don't have to tell your heart to beat every second. Skeletal muscle tissue functions voluntarily, unlike the other two, which means you have to command it in order for it to function. Your skeletal muscles are attached to your skeleton, and when you want to move, they pull a certain bone and they cause that movement to happen. So now we're going to talk about the appearances of the different types of muscle tissue. As you can see, smooth muscle tissue is very smooth. It doesn't have these lines or these striations on them. So that's how you can kind of tell. So when you're looking at it under a microscope, it won't have these lines like the other two has. And cardiac muscle tissue it has lots of these branches, and that's how you can tell if you're looking under a microscope that is cardiac muscle tissue. And now smooth muscle tissue, they're going horizontally in the same direction, and they have lines or striations on them like cardiac muscle tissue, except they don't have branches on them, and they're just running right beside each other. So that's how you could tell, if you're looking under a microscope, which one's which. So that's muscle tissue and nervous tissue explained. And in our next episode, we're going to explain epithelial tissue and connective tissue, which are, in my opinion at least, a lot more difficult. Anyways, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.